Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Frederick. I am the Vice President for Professional Development for APA, and I'm excited to welcome you to our webinar today provided by Energy Cap and Thomas Diliberti, who will be leading you through this conversation. Some quick housekeeping things. We do have the Q&A turned on, so feel free to post any questions or queries there, or if you're having any technical issues, you by all means can also place your concerns there. If anything else should come up, myself and Jessica Gorman, who is here from APA, we're in the background, and we're here to help you. So I'm going to hand it over to Tom and let him share all of his knowledge.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for joining us today. A brief introduction about myself. I have spent the last 20 years working in the energy industry, helping hundreds of organizations try to improve their efficiency. And at the core of that, or the root of that, was the software Energy Cap. And so through today's webinar, what I want to do is take you through strategies that I used and also share with you how Energy Cap can be used to realize savings in several different ways. You'll see over the next 45, 50 minutes. So with that, let me take you through a quick agenda. I want to start the webinar by talking about something called the energy pyramid. And the theme here is just having a plan. As you manage your facilities and manage your utility data, you need to have a plan. And I want to walk you through how you can strategically set out on a plan that will help you realize the maximum amount of savings over the course of years of time. Then I want to transition into some forecasts and utility rates. You'll see utility rates are on the rise. And then I want to spend a bulk of the time talking about our savings maturity model. So Energy Cap has this model that we've seen our clients use over the course of years of time to help them, once again, just become as efficient as possible. You'll see through that discussion, we're leveraging technology, and we're also finding ways to calculate and monitor ROI. And then I'll finish by summarizing all of it at the end, and certainly be available to answer any questions. I am very comfortable if you have questions as we go, so please don't hesitate to put questions in the Q&A, and I'm happy to address them as we go. With that, let me start with a disclaimer. You'll hopefully hear through my communication in the next hour, energy management is something that I get super excited about because I just think it makes sense for organizations to save where they can. And when you put together a good plan, it happens. You just have to communicate your way through and good stuff happens. But I want people to also realize energy management should never compromise human safety or comfort. And I would imagine a lot of the people on today's call, your responsibilities are to manage facilities. And I accept and recognize human safety and comfort is paramount and above all else. But the cost of ignoring energy management is growing. You'll see here in a few minutes as we talk about rates, the impact is going to grow over the course of time. And so I'm asking you to consider, where does this fit in your job responsibilities? And what I wanted to do is get a poll. Find out from people what your experience has been in using utility data, bill data. Are you new to it, like where you know it exists, but you really don't use it in your job responsibilities? All the way to the other extreme where you're using utility data all the time. So could we please pop up the poll on the screen? And I'd love for people to respond and just get a feel for who's on the call.
Hey, Jessica.
On my end,
there
oops, there.
There
Yeah, I wasn't able to see it. I just wanted to confirm. Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for responding. It looks like everybody's jumping in there. So this is interesting. I would assume everybody can see the poll, but I can see the poll. And it's interesting because the first two categories are about 25%, 25%. It looks as though a majority of the people, near 35, 40%, are using it regularly, that choice C. And then letter D is about 14%. So a lot of the people, or I should say about 14% of the people, are just using utility data all the time, the things that they do. And so what you've responded is exactly what I would have guessed, where there are, it's not exactly equal across the board, but for the most part, it's pretty evenly distributed where people have varying levels, both of their knowledge of utility data, as well as how they are utilizing it in their professional responsibilities. So let me see if we share these results. And then I'm going to close out of this and move on to the next slide. So thank you for responding. Something else I wanted to ask you, and this question is more rhetorical than anything. I just wanted you to think about utility data and where it fits in your priorities. So as I talk for the next 45 minutes, that's what I'd like you to keep in the back of your mind is how is it currently playing a role in what you do, and how might that change for the benefit of your organization, and how can others help you out? And again, I'm here to answer any questions as we go through this. So with that in mind, kicking off and the material, the stuff that I really want to share with you, the stuff that gets me excited about hopefully what can help you. So what's on the screen now is something that's called the energy pyramid. And it was given to us by a professor from Penn State University, Dr. Buffington. And I really like this model and view of energy management because I think it tells the whole story in a nice, clean picture. So it's built on this whole energy pyramid. The concept of becoming more efficient is built on energy information. It's the foundation. It's your utility data. Without good utility data in a spot that you can understand it, you're really going to struggle. After getting your utility data organized, though, you need to start to audit it. And in the next couple slides, you'll see that's what Energy Cap does. Energy Cap helps you audit your data so you can begin to glean information from it. A step in the pyramid that's many times ignored by people, but a critical step is the middle purple layer called energy conservation. People think energy conservation doesn't really merit a lot of effort because they think people won't pay attention to it. People won't invest their time to conserve energy, and I would argue otherwise. As I described earlier, where I've worked with hundreds of organizations, this was my role, was really promoting energy conservation within an organization. And many organizations saw 20, 30% savings just through energy conservation techniques. And you might say, Tom, why at that point in the pyramid? What's the benefit? Well, I would argue if you focus on energy conservation earlier rather than later in the process, you're going to begin to see immediate savings. It will also help to reduce the runtime on your equipment because if stuff isn't running as long, it's going to last longer. And it prepares you for the next steps in the pyramid. That fourth step coming up from the bottom is energy efficiency. This is the idea that the stuff you own or the stuff that you install should be more efficient. So the classic examples are HVAC systems or lighting. Again, you might say, why there? Again, the answer is if you've begun to turn everything off through your energy conservation strategies, and now you've installed new equipment that's more efficient, you're continuing to see savings over the course of time. And on the top of the pyramid might surprise you, this idea of renewable energy. Well, renewable energy should be at the top, in my opinion, because if you put it further down the pyramid, if you start with renewable energy, many times the systems that you're installing or managing, they're oversized and they're not efficient. By wading through this process of energy conservation and energy efficiency, you install the smallest systems possible, whether they're PV or battery storage systems, whereby saving capital dollars and minimizing your cost. And I love this example because I think it takes you through a logical approach and it helps you answer questions in terms of what the priorities should be. So you'll see this happen as I continue in the presentation today, as I go through the webinar, how Energy Cap, the software, helps our clients go through this process strategically in order to save as much money as possible and minimize those capital costs over the course of time. Now, I did see as I was presenting there a hand pop up. Was there a question? I will take that as no, since there was no response. All right. So shared with you this idea of the energy pyramid and how to go about managing facilities over time. And I wanted to put this graphic up to help you understand what's going to be happening with rates. So utility rates over the course of the next 5 years and beyond. You allow yourself to move around this diagram and quickly read some of the things. There are many factors that are causing utility rates to rise, from climate change to decreasing hydroelectric water flow, because there isn't as much water flow down to Colorado. Population growth, again, climate impacts, renewable challenges, aging infrastructure. So it's a smattering of events that are taking place around the country, and they're having varying impacts, whether you're in the West or Midwest or South. But everybody's going to experience significant rate increases over time. That's what's forecasted. And I offer this simply as a motivator to say, the sooner we recognize this, the faster we can adapt to this and protect our budgets and do the right things for our organizations. Now, introducing you to Energy Cap for those who haven't seen this. This is a quick summary of what the Energy Cap software program does. Energy Cap takes inputs, and it's a utility bill software program. So ultimately, what it's ingesting or what it's digesting are your bills and documents. Many of our clients, they put the data into Energy Cap manually. So somebody is putting that data into the software, but some clients make use of electronic tools to import the data. So APIs are used. The software can also ingest data through meters and sensors. And so all of this data is flowing into the platform. And so it becomes a single source of truth. So all of the data is in one spot. Once it's there, it can be validated and you can use it in order to learn things about your organizations and outputs that come from it. You can create dashboards, you can create reports for people, you can share it within your organization. It ends up being a wonderful tool for the entire organization to benefit by having the data in one particular location. And so you might say, well, who benefits? Well, I would argue the facilities teams and operation teams can benefit greatly because you have a much better understanding for what's happening in your facilities. If you have people on staff in sustainability offices or people that have to write reports and respond to requests of how much energy is being utilized or how much emissions are taking place, they also can benefit by having this data. Finance teams use this data all over the country to pay bills. And the IT departments like having this because this data is secure. So one platform houses all of this data, and through different permissions, people can get into the data and use it for their benefit. For a bulk of the webinar, for the next, I guess, 20 to 30 minutes, what I'm going to talk about is this savings maturity model. And so it's summarized here on this slide, but each of these stages I want to unpack in greater detail. But to just help you to understand what's here, the first step that most of our clients in Energy Cap go through as they build this process of improvement is they get all their utility data within Energy Cap. The second step is to automate that data entry. So many times people learn when you're manually inputting the data, there's lost effort there. There's inefficiencies that are created. We can help you with that by automating the data import and getting the data into the software for you. Once the data is there, you can start to monitor the usage. So you can start to look for opportunities to save in the buildings, identify those meters in those buildings that are using more energy than they should, and start to make changes. The fourth stage is complying and reporting. It's taking that data and communicating it. And lastly, the fifth stage, and quite possibly this stage is happening throughout, it's taking action. It's using the data and moving it into action in the field by changing settings in buildings. And what I encourage people to do in going through this process is establish an energy policy and some operational guidelines. Once you have the data and you can track it, you can hold people more accountable to change. And this is that energy conservation piece once again. So taking action becomes easier to do when you're able to hold people accountable, but it starts with having a policy and guidelines and getting everybody on the same page for how you want to operate your facilities. So let's go through each of these different stages more in depth. So step number one is getting the data into Energy Cap. Said this before, but just make sure it rings true, is this is a way to centralize all your data into one spot, one single source of truth. And what you see in the bottom right of the screen here is a screenshot of what Energy Cap looks like. So on the left-hand side of that image, what you see is you see building names and you see meters. So Energy Cap allows you to organize everything in a very structured way so that you can understand what building is using what type of energy. And it also produces graphs and charts, things we call power views, for you to quickly understand what's happening within your facilities. Just by going through this process, what we find is our clients will save anywhere between 1% to 3% on their utilities. You might say, Tom, why? Like, why does that create change? Well, it's kind of ironic. Again, I've seen this hundreds and hundreds of times around the country, is there are all sorts of mistakes that are made with utility bills. And it's the bullet item there, this is account ownership. I can't tell you how many times organizations are paying for bills that they should not be. And once you bring the bills under one umbrella so people can study them, you can catch up with the bills that you're supposed to pay and identify the bills that you're not responsible for. So that creates savings. Another common thing that happens in the field is there are mistakes with building multipliers. Electric meters have a number stamped on them that multiplies the usage of the meter by a value, and that meter number is supposed to be the same as what's on the bill. Once again, I can't tell you how many times I've seen where these numbers are inconsistent, mistakes are made, and the organization is paying for more than they should. And find the third place our clients see an awful lot of savings is on taxes and fees. We work with a lot of organizations that aren't responsible for paying taxes and fees, but yet the bills have them on there. And so once you identify those, take action with those, as I've said before, our clients see 1 to 3% savings just with that. And that can amount to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending upon the size of the organization. I see in the Q&A there's a question. Was there a question?
Yeah, somebody asked, Energy Cap looks to be at a higher level than individual plant historians, or made a comment.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm not quite sure how to respond to that, but yeah, Energy Cap is sophisticated. The beauty of this software is it has a level of sophistication for analysis, but it is very, very user friendly and very intuitive as you navigate around. And what you'll see on future screenshots as I move through today's webinar, hopefully you'll see how comfortable it is and how colorful it is, and get a feel for its ease of use.
Yes, and while I have you, Tom, another one was, how do you know what tax you have to pay and which you don't?
That is an awesome question. The answer to that is I can't immediately say one thing or another without more context and detail. But what I would say is go back to your vendor, your providers. But typically, public institutions, schools in general, are not responsible for paying taxes in most of the parts of the country, whether it's county taxes or city taxes or federal taxes. And so I know my answer is a little bit cryptic, a little bit nebulous, but what I would say is go back, find out what you got, first of all, slow down, maybe quantify it. Is it all your bills? Is it 5 bills? Quantify it and then go to your vendor and work through that. And again, you'll be surprised. And it's very uncommon for us to have a client that doesn't experience some benefit through catching up with fees and taxes that they're not responsible for. So I would challenge you to go check it out. And my guess is you're going to pay for your own time very quickly because you're going to find stuff that you're not responsible for. Daniela, did another question come in?
Yeah, we had one more. And John, John submitted one. I'm not sure you finished typing it. So if you want to resubmit yours, Grace asked, how do you know what the multiplier is supposed to be?
Yeah, it's different. I can't again say specifically what it's supposed to be. Usually for smaller meters, it's a smaller number. It might be a multiplier of 1 or 10. But if you have a massive building, let's just say a high school that we've all have experience what a high school would be, something that might be 100,000, 500,000 square feet, just huge buildings. Usually those have meter multipliers of 500 or 1,000. They're very, very large. So the main thing is there's nothing broken about having a multiplier. What's broken is if the multiplier doesn't match the bill. That's when there's an opportunity to save and catch up with the utility company because they might be taking more of your money than they deserve. Okay, so in the same first step of unpacking the data, another thing that Energy Cap really helps you do very easily is benchmark the data. And the screenshot over here, once again, is showing you a very simple graphic where it's ranked the buildings. In this case here, if you're able to see it by how much they cost per square foot. And so you can find buildings very quickly that are more expensive to operate than others. And it should provoke the question, why? Why is it more expensive? And give you the ability to unpack that and figure it out. If you were to ask me the question, where should you start? I'd say, look at energy use intensity. Look at EUI. Look at that first, but look at cost. Look at use. Identify those energy hogs, and then also to compare the data to Energy Star data or CPEX data, because all of that data helps you to understand better the buildings that you have that are inefficient, and then you can methodically work on strategies for finding ways to save. Daniela, did another question come in?
No, we're good. John was just finishing his statement, which was when energy is used, it is at least important as how much.
Yep.
So yes, there you go. But we're all set
Okay.
on the questions.
Right.
Thanks.
All right. So just to kind of get you in the context of what I'm trying to take you through here. So step number one of looking at your utility data is get it in one spot. Get it in one spot so you can get it organized, dissect it, organize it, and then learn from it and start to take action by following up on some of these bills. And what I have here is a case study by the city of Baltimore, how they did that and how it impacted them. Long story made short is they went back and they got a whole bunch of data that they pulled into Energy Cap and they studied it. And they found a bill that was charged 10 times what it should have been charged. And if you look there in the bottom left corner of the screen, this one event created a $100,000 refund from the vendor. So that obviously very quickly pays for somebody's time in order to go through the effort to find them. But what that did is it precipitated other actions by the organization where now they wanted to confirm all accounts, find inactive meters or closed accounts. And if now you move to the right-hand side of the slide, the impact the city of Baltimore had was they found almost $500,000 in savings because of all the mistakes that were being made with their bills. Now, could I promise this is going to happen everywhere? Absolutely not. But can I tell you this is a common occurrence? And usually it's proportional to the size of an organization. So smaller organizations are going to see less, bigger organizations much more. But it happens nearly everywhere. And it's worth your time to dig into it and find out what's going on. Okay, so step number one is getting the data in one spot. Step number two is automating the data. What we found from our customers is people, after typing the data in and managing the data themselves for a period of time, they find that we can do it quicker and faster, and it frees up their time in order to work on other things, in order to capture more savings and look for other efficiencies. If you notice in the top right of this, that what's typical is that we will save our clients nearly 40 hours a month of time on average from typing their data in. And what also happens is the data is being pulled into Energy Cap is we can find flags or we can find data that's incorrect. And those people that are no longer doing manual bill entry, they can catch up on those things, work with the vendors, suppliers, whatever the case might be, and catch up in order to drive savings.
Hey, Tom, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
We had an attendee who said that we lost sound. Kishore, I'm not sure if it was maybe just you. If somebody could just post in the chat, or excuse me, in the Q&A, if you can hear us. Tom, I can hear you. So I think we're okay. Just want to make
Okay.
sure we didn't lose everybody. Sound is fine. Okay. Kishore, oh, he can't hear us. So I'll respond to him and let him know he might want to close out and come back in. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, you bet. All right, so with that in mind, again, the first two steps, get the data, and then let us help you get the data. So it's all, again, being fed in the Energy Cap so you can focus your efforts on turning it into action. And if you notice, and what you'll see in the future slides is how it's going to accumulate. Now, the savings is no longer 1 to 3%. By doing these activities, now you maybe you're getting 5%, 8% of savings as a result of going through these activities. So I wanted to share an example with you, another case study from the University of Arizona. The University of Arizona went through this process where they were manually typing in their data. Again, they learned over time, just as I told a minute ago, that there's a better way. That the action now is the bills are now being digitally captured and audited and validated. So that manual entry has gone away. And the organization's also seeing these bills get flagged. So people downstream can react to that. And that's the point. So the University of Arizona has a great example of how they improve their processes by evolving and using bill capture as a way to improve. So the third step in the system, something I want to spend a little more time with, is something that's called smart analytics, or we want to monitor our usage. If you haven't heard the term before, smart analytics is a real-time data or real-time data solution, software solution for looking at what's happening in your buildings. So what it's going to help you do is it's going to help you identify spikes or abnormal patterns and waste that's taking place and moves you from being reactive to proactive. I want to talk about the chart over in the bottom right-hand corner and explain it a little bit so you can appreciate what's going on and how this could be helpful to you in your organization. In this graph over on the right-hand side, the green area that's going across is a calculated representation for where the energy use should be occurring over time. And let me back up a little bit and explain more and say along the left-hand side here, along the y-axis, this is energy use. And across the bottom, it represents one 24-hour period of time. So the green area, once again, sweeping across the graph is where the usage should normally be, or it falls based on the history. And the black line now going across the graph represents the actual usage or demand on the building that's taking place. And so you can see the black line deviates from the average or deviates from where it's supposed to be and jumps up. So this point here represents an anomaly. And that anomaly might be very expensive, but by seeing it and reacting to it, very likely you're going to minimize your costs. This is what I mean by using the data and monitoring your usage in order to respond to things that are happening in your facilities. I have a couple more slides I want to take you through that also show more diagrams of smart analytics. But before I do that, let me just make a comment on this one about how these graphs and charts can be set up with different alerts, and you can receive notifications if you're ever out of range. So when you have a data point that gets away from where it's supposed to, you can be pinged and you can respond to it. So rather than you having to go find the inconsistency, that will come back to you so that you can react to it. Another great feature in how this software can help you. All right, so another picture that I want to explain, and another way this software is being used by people to benefit them. So what you're looking at now is not 1 day of time, it's 7 days of time. If you notice the dates up here across the top, similar to what I explained a minute ago, the green area sweeping across the picture represents what the usage would look like during a normal week of time. The black line, once again, represents the actual usage that's taking place. And if you notice at some point it changes, but it changes intentionally because what this organization chose to do is they chose to set back their buildings over a shutdown period of time around the holidays. And what's powerful about this is because now we can see the usages change, it's flattened out, and we can compare it to what a normal week would look like. We can now calculate the value of shutting the building down. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, when people see the value and you can quantify it, people are much more apt to make changes to conserve the energy and ultimately the money. And so that's, once again, the power of using this type of software, because it can turn this into numbers that you can share with other people. This is a similar yet different graphic. Here, we're looking at a week of time. So here it's a bar graph. And so each one of these bars represents usage, and each one of these blue areas behind represents occupied time. And so what you have is you have a 7-day week. And so this would be the last 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. This would be the following Monday and Tuesday. So you can see you have a week of time. And in the middle, you've captured a weekend. And you might say, well, Tom, I see that. What's the value? Well, when you look at the data this way, and you look at how much energy is being used during the time that it's scheduled, and how much energy is being used off schedule, it once again allows you to calculate and determine the value of keeping the building in an unoccupied mode. And also, let's suppose each one of these usage periods on this Friday, suppose you have somebody that's using your building or using your space and you want to charge them for the time that they use the space. When you cut off that part of the hump, you can very specifically calculate the energy usage and charge them and recover money if you're in an industry where that would be important to you. But again, it all starts from having the data and having the software, the ability to do that. Another example here is this idea of finding a leak. This time now we're not using data that's electrical data, we're using water data. And so the story being told here is you've got days of time taking place along the bottom, and you've got a situation where there's a water meter that was essentially showing zero usage. It was very, very low. Well, somebody turned it on and used water, it went back down. But now at some point, the meter never returns to zero. It never goes back to the value that it started with. This was used in order to identify a water leak. And once again, rather than waiting for weeks or months to go by where you're paying for water that leaked out of a pipe, this can be found and reacts to much faster. And so there's a huge benefit by being able to cut down that period of time. With that, what I'd like to do is invite somebody in on the webinar. I wanted to invite Mike Hoffman in from the University of Arizona. Mike has worked with Energy Cap for a couple years now, and I wanted him to share a little bit of his experience with Energy Cap. So rather than hearing it from me, wanted to hear it from an actual user of the software and how it's helped the University of Arizona. So hopefully, if we don't have any technical glitches, Mike, are you out there? Can you offer us some insight on the University of Arizona?
Well, I'm out here. I don't know how much insight I can offer, but I'm definitely out here.
I'm confident you can.
So like Tom said, we moved over to Energy Cap about 2 years ago. Prior to that, we were using a legacy, well, we were using a confluence of systems. We were using a legacy utility data historian system that was coupled with a cost allocation program, but that was purely for our internal interval meters. And I should point out that the University of Arizona is about a 15 million square foot campus in Tucson with about 200 buildings. And we are a district energy system, which means that most of our primary utilities are only delivered to the campus at our central utility plants. And then we co-generate and generate our chilled water and steam, and then we redistribute. So we have a number of utility bills coming from vendors that have to partner or be reconciled with about 1,000 different interval level data meters that connect to the buildings, for which we are primarily exclusively responsible. In addition to that, we are the land grant university in Arizona. And so we have a number of cooperatives, extensions, secondary auxiliary campuses throughout the state, for which we also manage utility bills. So we have about 15 different utility vendors, and it adds up to 700 or 800 utility bills per month, or I should say utility accounts per month, that need to be entered, analyzed for variance, reconciled, and then processed for payment. So it was an arduous process for us that would take probably about 2 weeks every month, between chasing down all the vendor bills, analyzing them, getting them into software that could then transfer it to our accounts payable system at the university budget office, and then reconciling all those interval meters. When we moved to Energy Cap, once we got past the onboarding, that 2 weeks came down to about 2 to 3 days a month. We realized a tremendous savings in time, not only because of the benefit of the automated bill capture system that Energy Cap is known for, but for all the analytics, the flagging, the variance analyses, the routine behind the curtain analytics that was normally being done by utilities analysts now simply needed to be reviewed and the flags responded to. So the gain on the outset was tremendous, to the point that our utilities analysts and our commissioning and analytics specialists are now able to take on a lot of other skill sets or take on other projects where they would not have had time for this. As far as the interval data, or even the vendor bill data, we have found a number of instances where significant utility cost mistakes or utility cost losses were found by the system. So we had a domestic water issue at the student recreation center where a solenoid valve for the pool backflush had stuck open, and we caught it before anybody saw the water because it was all going right into drain. We caught it by the data variance, by seeing on Energy Cap that water usage in that building had skyrocketed, and it only cost us a phone call to the facilities manager to say, go walk your facility because you're leaking water somewhere. And we got a call back the next day. Could we please send the plumber because we had found this stuck valve? We estimate that was about $1 million a year in potable water that would have continued to go down the drain. We had a similar issue with chilled water at the Bannister Tree Ring building, which is a laboratory that is a center for our studies on dendrochronology, where chilled water was being bypassed and we were losing a tremendous amount of energy. Nobody could see it because it's a closed loop system, but we found it through the bills. So answering Bradley Haas's questions, the interval data meters that we own, the 1,000 meters I referenced, are real time. And Energy Cap does connect to them, but we don't do it directly through the BAS. I know they have the capacity to do that, but what we do is all of our meters, both at demand points throughout the campus and within our central utility plants, those meters are fed through data servers to control port access. It's an information security measure, and report into a separate utilities data historian system, which we chose to do because our previous experiences taught us that we really wanted to keep that raw utilities data sacrosanct and away from any other potential manipulation or data conflicts. So Energy Cap only gets its our interval data from the utilities historian. Now, I know from doing our investigations and our research that led to us going into Energy Cap that they certainly have the capacity to do the direct connect. And I don't have an opinion one way or the other. That would be an institutional decision on whether or not you want a software connecting to your BAS or not. There are pros and cons. Our MO is to use that separate utilities data historian. And one of the values there is the utilities data historian is getting essentially real time, allowing for network drag on a very tight interval. Some of these meters are reporting multiple times per minute. That level of granularity doesn't serve us for the kind of analytics that we're doing through smart analytics and Energy Cap. So what we do is we just send an average 15-minute reading, as if, the same way that your typical electric utility would send, and that 15-minute interval meter or calculation is what lands in Energy Cap Smart Analytics. And then Smart Analytics is obviously integrated with utility management. And so that's how we roll it up by stages. The value there for me is I can open Energy Cap and go back and forth between utility management and smart analytics seamlessly. And if I need to get super granular, which really is at the point of troubleshooting and issue investigation, then I can go into the utilities historian and look at that very detailed, granular level of data. We've been able to refute, I honestly don't even know how much money we've been able to refute with utilities, because we're tracking and running at least the same level, if not better level of analytics through Energy Cap than the utilities are doing on their end. So it's been a tremendous value to us all the way around.
Awesome. Mike, thanks. I appreciate your input, just giving people some real world experience, just how it's effective. Just kind of moving on to the next step. I just to give you the context here. Remember, I started 20 minutes ago talking about the 4 steps and how we've got to get the data. We've got to take advantage of the opportunity to get our help getting the data into the software. Now we're analyzing the data. Step number 4 is about compliance and reporting. So we have a tool within Energy Cap called Carbon Hub that helps you communicate out to the stakeholders about how you're doing with emissions. It also is great because you can apply location and market-based emission factors. There's a library of factors there for you to work with. This, again, is a wonderful thing because it helps inform those interested how you're doing. And I can tell you, the more transparent this process is, the more people will buy in and the further you'll get. This is a screenshot of a dashboard. It's an interactive dashboard. And what's great about this is it's a mix of the bill data, carbon data, and interval data all in one spot. And what's really neat about the dashboards is these can be shared internally or they can be shared externally. So if you have motivations to just keep it in-house in order to change people's behavior or share information, you can do that. If you want to make it public because you're trying to build more support from your community, that can also be done. So the software has the power of achieving either one of those, whatever your mission is. An example of that is a company, AFL. AFL started using Energy Cap. And long story made short is they started using Carbon Hub. And once they started using Carbon Hub, they were able to track the changes that were taking place. It allowed them to save an awful lot of energy. They completed 29 different projects over the course of a year and saved over $170,000. And using the reporting mechanisms, the dashboards, it was a really positive thing for the organization. And so that's the point, is Energy Cap gives you the opportunity to comply and report in order to make sure you're achieving all of your goals. The fifth step and the final step of this process, I mentioned it's taking action. And this has been my world. When I kicked off the webinar in the beginning, I said that I spent 20 years in the industry and this is what I was doing. I was helping clients use Energy Cap to do things in their buildings in order to save energy. And what I've got here is a bulleted list of the key things that I think have the biggest benefit. And number one on the list is always aligning time of day schedules with occupancy. I know people get very busy and systems start to run. Weeks go by, years goes by, you don't get a chance to get back. I want to remind people, go back to the basics. Get out in your buildings, audit the buildings, make sure as the HVAC systems are running, it's tied to the occupancy that's taking place in the buildings. Too many times I saw buildings running well into the evening after people went home, or they come on way too early in the morning. This is a huge opportunity. And what's great about the software is you can see this and you can also quantify the benefit in order to motivate you to capture those savings. Make sure you're setting your occupied and unoccupied set points relatively consistently. So standardize those set points, be more aggressive with your setbacks. And I also mentioned to people this idea of conduct soft retro commissioning of the building automation system. The further you get removed away from a project where somebody was looking at the building automation system regularly, the more the settings get out of whack. So if you know you haven't done something in a building for 5 years, you haven't added equipment or done anything mechanical in the building, very likely that system is a little out of whack. Spend some time getting into the building automation system, looking at set points and airflows, just run some reports and do some analysis. And my guess is you're going to find the opportunity to save within those buildings. The other really neat thing that the software does, Energy Cap can calculate what's called cost avoidance. And that's what I like to spend a couple minutes explaining now. Because I know when you make changes, you want to be able to quantify it. You want to be able to share it with other people. And cost avoidance is this idea of doing measurement and verification in order to determine how much was actually saved. What you see on this screen here is a visual representation for the concept of cost avoidance, and I'd like to explain it. The chart over on the right-hand side, you'll notice on the axis, one side is energy use, and across the bottom are 3 different situations. The first thing that Energy Cap does is whatever baseline you define, let's suppose you want to use the calendar year 2024 as a baseline. What Energy Cap is going to do, it's going to take all of that consumption and it's going to find out how much is due to the weather and how much would have happened regardless of the weather. The next thing Energy Cap can do is it can calculate what's called an adjusted baseline. So you need to adjust for today's condition, because if you want to compare to what happened previously, it's only a good comparison. It's only a good apples to apples comparison if you factor the weather in. So I purposely made this middle bar a little different than the one on the left because I want you to see some obvious things that would cause this to change. So the dark blue part of the bar that I have labeled as consumption, it's a little bit bigger in the middle bar because maybe the middle bar is a longer period of time. So maybe it's more days in a billing cycle. So rather than a 28-day billing cycle, it's a 30 or 32-day billing cycle. So it's comparing a fair comparison, making sure you're using the same number of days. And the weather, the light blue part of the bar, is smaller because that would imply the weather is less severe. So the first bar is the fact of what happened in your base period. The second bar is generated by Energy Cap to give you an apples to apples comparison. And then the third bar is a representation of what really happened in the field. So it's data right off your bills. And if there's a difference, in this case here, there's a reduction, it can calculate the savings. And this is very powerful information because it can be shared with others and it can propel more changes in your building, and then the savings can grow over time. Once again, it's a great tool for ROI calculations. And hopefully this just gives you an idea for how it's done. It's relatively easy to understand. The calculations behind the scenes are a little bit sophisticated, but I think most people can grasp what's happening. But Energy Cap takes care of all of it because it does the calculations for you. This is another picture you might find helpful in understanding what it's doing. So here, what you've got on the left-hand side, again, is energy being used, and it's time going by along the bottom. So the dark blue line going from left to right is just showing the usage that's taking place over time. In the middle, you've got this red bar, and the red bar represents something was maybe installed or something was changed. It might represent a lighting retrofit or a mechanical change or a building automation system improvement. So something took place. The blue bar continues to go across the diagram, measuring what actually was spent and how much energy was used. But the green bar, starting at this point, represents what would have happened had the change not been made. And notice this green on the right-hand side is similar to the blue over here because the assumption is it's probably going to be pretty close to what it was. But this is a legitimate, fair calculation considering weather and other factors for you to net out or determine how much savings actually took place. So in this particular picture, the green shaded area represents the savings that occurred as a result of some event that took place. That is the concept of cost avoidance. And you might say, well, tell me more about cost avoidance or give me an example. The best example that I have for you is the University of New Mexico. UNM, back in 2008, they started an energy program using Energy Cap. And look at these staggering numbers that are on the bottom of the screen. They have seen avoided energy use of more than 27%. They've avoided spending more than $173 million, and a whole bunch of CO2 has not gone into the atmosphere. Energy Cap was at the core for UNM to run their program, and the results have been profound. And that, again, is the point. So as we move towards the end of the presentation, I want to begin to summarize some things. So you might say, what are the features with the most savings potential? Well, hopefully you've seen through my explanation today, the one I just went through, cost avoidance, can be very, very powerful. Using reports and dashboards can really help out your organization. And I mentioned early on this idea of bill flags, whereas the bills come into the system, the ones that are unusual can be flagged and people can give their attention to those bills. Other things the software can do is you can export workbooks. So you can take the data out and put it into Excel spreadsheets for further analysis. So if you've got engineers on staff who like to do calculations and analyses, the data can come out of the software very easily. You can track any projects that you want to do. And again, hopefully you've seen several examples of how you can benchmark your buildings. All of this contributes to the benefit to your organization. And so there's a lot there. And the bottom line is every single feature in Energy Cap is designed to save cost, save time, reduce energy usage, eliminate errors, or build insights. That is what the software is all about. Another quick summary here. I talked about a number of things and I thought it might be helpful for you to see. The software Energy Cap is built on utility management. That's its core. And these other features, Carbon Hub, Smart Analytics, those are modules within the software that our clients make use of. I didn't really speak a lot today about the modules for finance, and I did that on purpose because I anticipated there would not be a lot of finance people on the call today or on the webinar, but there are features for chargebacks in advanced accounting, and so those do exist for the finance team in the house. And the last thing I mentioned today was this idea of capture services, where we can help you get the data into the software. And I wanted to end the presentation with this because I wanted you to see it all in one spot. So hopefully you can see the value in what I've tried to describe over the last hour. So as we bring this to close, and I try to leave some time so you could ask more questions, what I wanted to do is put up this poll, and if there's anybody that would like to learn more about Energy Cap, it would give you the opportunity to say so, and we'd be happy to reach out to you. I also very much wanted to welcome anybody on the webinar today. If you'd like to reach out to me directly, that would be great. I'm always happy to help share my experiences both with the software and in the industry if I can be of assistance to you.
Yeah, and just real quick, chiming in here while everyone is answering this poll, a reminder to customers or not, we do have a community online called Eco Champions, and it's a great place to get some FaceTime with Tom. We host workshops there, trainings, all kinds of fun stuff. If you're looking into Energy Cap, you can connect with Energy Cap users, or if you're an Energy Cap user, you can also connect with other users to make the most out of the tool. So that's a great place to reach not only Tom, but other peers in the industry that probably have just as many or more insights than Tom. So just wanted to throw that out there. But thanks, Tom, for offering yourself as a resource. We love to have you here at Energy Cap.
Yeah, and thank you, Daniela. And thanks for responding to the poll. I have one last slide that I wanted to move forward in the presentation deck, and it's this here. And it's just making you aware that I and we at Energy Cap are going to be attending these events. My instincts are that there are many people in the webinar today that will be attending one or more of these events over time. So if you'd like to look me up or look us up, we will be at these events. And the one that's coming up right away next week, next Tuesday, is I want to talk more about this idea of cost avoidance. I finished today's presentation on purpose with that so that it's fresh in your mind. And if you'd like to learn more about cost avoidance, we have a webinar next Tuesday where we're taking a look at M&V. I will slow down and do a better job, more thorough job of talking about cost avoidance and just more put more context around it so you can see ways that it might make help for your organization. So with that in mind, I think we are ready to open the floor for questions. It looks like there's at least a couple in the Q&A. Daniela or someone else, were there any questions?
Yes, I gotcha. All right. So we had a question about cost avoidance and the results feature that you were sharing. Is that an output from Smart Analytics, formerly known as Wattix, or is that within another part of Energy Cap?
That is within the utility management part of Energy Cap. So that does not require Smart Analytics, or it doesn't require the Carbon Hub. So it's right there in the core functionality of Energy Cap. And I'm very familiar with it because I help clients use it. And so once again, if you are using Energy Cap and you want more help with that, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help you learn more about cost avoidance.
And next week's webinar is perfect for that as well.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, thank you.
Of course. All right. And just we've had a few questions come in about the recording. It will be shared, I think, both from APA, and then we will be hosting it on our website too. If you ever want to check out past webinars, you just go to our resources page and you can find them there. Lots of thank yous as well. And I think that's it for questions that have been submitted. So if anyone has any other questions, we'd love to hear them or read them, I guess, in this case.
Okay, does that bring us to close, Danielle? Any other ones pop in here at the end?
Let's see. One other thing. Oh, yes, Bruce, we will check that out. Microphone quality. Somebody asked, is report designer BI an extra cost?
It's a great question. I don't believe so. I don't know, Danielle, if you know offhand, but I am not. I don't believe that has an additional cost.
I don't know either. It should be broken down on our website, but we can follow up with you afterwards. I don't, who asked that? Jeff, or Jeffrey. I don't know which one you go by. We'll follow up with an answer on that.
Awesome.
Cool.
Okay. Danielle, unless you're seeing something behind the scenes I'm not, I think it's probably time to sign off.
Thank you, Tom and Daniela from Energy Cap. Thank you, all the participants, for being here today.
Okay. Oh, we just got a little note. Thanks for saying the thank you, but I got a note that from somebody internally from Energy Cap that is an extra cost. That Power BI is an extra cost. Just if the person who asked the question is still on the webinar. Okay. With that, thank you everybody for attending today. We will see you sometime in the near future. Take care.